Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my week number 17 running back start or sit decisions. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure you do the like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. Today's video is being brought to you guys by DraftKings Sportsbook. We're going to be talking about a little bit later. Also important to note, I talked about this in the wide receiver start sit video. Again, I have not made videos over the last couple of days on Christmas. My dad ended up having a heart attack. He's all good now. Not trying to scare anyone. I talked about that in the video earlier. So that's why I've been gone. He's all good now. He's okay. He's home. I saw a lot of nice comments about it, so I do really appreciate that from you guys. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to him as well. He watches all my videos. He's in the chat and the live stream and all, so he's a big part of why this is all going on as well. So I do really appreciate all of you guys' kind comments. And without further ado, let's get into my week number 17. Try to keep things happy. It was a little scary, but let's have a great time. Week number 17, running back, start or sit decisions. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys at the Tennessee Titans. In this matchup, it appears that Derrick Henry is doubtful to play. Now, the team doesn't actually need to win this game to make the playoffs. All they need to do is worry about week number 18 next week. So it makes perfect sense that if Derrick Henry isn't 100% good to go, that they'd kind of just bench him this week and then have him as close to 100% as possible for next week's game. So I don't think Derrick Henry is going to play. That will lead to Hassan Haskins being the RB1 for the Tennessee Titans. And with how shit this team is going to be without Derrick Henry, he's the focal point of this offense. Without Ryan Tannehill having Malik Willis under center, they won't be able to move the ball. Hassan Haskins, it would take a prayer to the fantasy gods for Hassan Haskins to be fantasy relevant. Tony Pollard is banged up, could play, could not play tomorrow on Thursday Night Football. Ultimately, I do think he will end up playing, but I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sin, so we're going to have to wait and see. If he plays, obviously you're going to play him, and if he plays or doesn't play, you're playing Ezekiel Elliott, but if he ends up missing, then Ezekiel Elliott would move up even further in my rankings. Now we move to the Sunday slate of games, beginning with the Arizona Cardinals at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, obviously, on paper, we got Colt McCoy versus Desmond Ridder, so this really isn't all that interesting of a matchup, but in terms of the running back position, Tyler Algier has been on fire over the last couple of games. The Arizona Cardinals defense is not that hot up against the run, so it wouldn't really surprise me at all if Tyler Algier had yet another great game. Now, I am a really big fan of Cordero Patterson and wish the team utilized him a little bit heavier, but ultimately, we're in week fucking 17, right? This isn't week 5. We can tell what this team is going to do, and at this point, they want to run the rock aggressively with Tyler Algier. It doesn't really matter if they're winning or losing. They're going to run the rock in every single quarter of the game, so Tyler Algier should have a good chance to potentially have a huge game again. Now, am I going to rank him inside the top 12 or something? No, but does he have that upside to be a top 12, top 8 back in this matchup against the Cardinals? I really do believe so. James Conner has been on fire over the last couple of games as well. The team has really entrusted in him with Kyler Murray being out this week. It appears Colt McCoy will be back under center as Trace McSorley, throw it on a dime, is going to be back on the bench. Yet again, the quarterback position in Arizona is dog shit without Kyler Murray, but at the end of the day, James Conner's been good with both of them, so I don't think the quarterback position really changes my opinion on James Conner. I guess the offense should work slightly better with Colt McCoy under center, so I like James Conner just a little bit more. But again, it's not like it heavily weighs and changes my opinion regardless of which quarterback is in there. Keontae Ingram is the backup for James Conner. He's going to be a sit-in again. While I like Cordero Patterson, his usage has just been really bad this year. Next up, we move to the Chicago Bears at the Detroit Lions. Now, with Khalil Herbert coming back up against the Lions defense, who got their back blown out last week by Chuba Hubbard and Donta Foreman and the Carolina Panthers, it is entirely possible that David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert have a big day. Now, David Montgomery has been relatively consistent over the last few weeks, but prior to last week, the Lions defense was incredibly stout up against the run, so it was pretty perplexing to watch the game and just watch two running backs that, look, they're okay, right? I'm not here to shit on Donta Foreman or on Chuba Hubbard, but at the end of the day, it's not like they're on the same level of even a guy like Khalil Herbert or David Montgomery, so it was shocking to see them get an Eiffel Tower ran on on them. I do think that David Montgomery should have a pretty decent game here, but the return of Khalil Herbert does concern me enough to where I'm not going to bang the drum aggressively for Montgomery. Jamal Williams has been in fucking hibernation over the last couple of weeks. He hasn't really been doing much. DeAndre Swift hasn't been doing much either. It's really just about the matchup here, the fact that they're playing up against a bum Chicago Bears defense that makes me want to start DeAndre Swift. But again, I'm not going to be banging the drum for him. It's impossible to. He's an incredibly talented player. He is, in my opinion, one of the most talented running backs in all of the National Football League. The problem is the usage just isn't there. Is he still hurt? I don't know. Dan Campbell's not really telling us. Good matchup, though, against Chicago. I'm going to start him, but again, with not very much confidence. And Jamal Williams, again, he has been just a dumpster fire over the last couple of weeks, so he's back on the bench. Next up, we pivot to a very exciting game here. I'm only kidding. The Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. Now, the Houston Texans have been able to kind of crawl their way into games recently, playing teams extremely close, whereas at the beginning of the year, they were getting absolutely spit roasted by their opponents. They have one of the worst defenses in the NFL against the run. Everyone and their mother knows that. So realistically, if there was ever a game for Travis Etienne to fucking emerge, to have that big hammer game that he had earlier on in the season, it would be this week up against the Texans. Am I saying that is a guaranteed stone cold lock to happen? Of course not, but I do think it is in the realm of possibilities. JaMychal Hasty is handcuffed, so I'm going to sit him down. Without Dameon Pierce, oh man, Dameon Pierce could have had such a good game against the Jaguars. Sadly, he's out for the season. We got Rolls, Royce Freeman, and Dare Ogunbowale. Again, the Texans offense actually hasn't looked half bad recently, but they just use too many running backs for me to even decipher which one you would want to start this week. Next up, we move to the Denver Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs. Latavius Murray has been relatively decent when he had to take over after the kind of Melvin Gordon experiment ended. And then obviously we had the injury to the other running back earlier on the season whose name is escaping me, but obviously he's going to be like a top fucking 2-round pick next year, whatever his name is. That's escaping me. That's embarrassing that I don't remember his name, but it is what it is. It is what it is, as they say. Latavius Murray is going to be a sit here, as is Marlon Mack. The Chiefs defense isn't some world-beating defense, but ultimately, Russell Wilson just fucking sucks. Keep it plain and simple. They fired Nathaniel Hackett. They got another interim coach in there. I don't know. This just does not seem like the get-right game for the Broncos. Far from it. Up against the Kansas City Chiefs, this was a game that was like a wet dream. When we were looking at the schedule prior to week 1, it's like, ooh, week 17, the championship round. We got Denver, Russell Wilson, versus the Patrick Mahomes. Gonna be so fun. And in reality, this game's absolute dog shit now. We're gonna see the Broncos get the shit piped out of them here by the Kansas City Chiefs. Jerick McKinnon is going to be a start. He had a down game last week, but it's very clear that he's still a key piece in this offense. Isaiah Pacheco continuing to get carries. I don't think he's necessarily a smash here. The Broncos defense really good against the pass, not so hot against the run. So again, I think Pacheco is going to have a start-worthy game, but same thing with McKinnon. Really nothing to write home about, in my opinion. Next up, we got my Miami Dolphins going up against the New England Patriots in Foxborough. In this spot, I'm going to be starting Ramondre Stevenson. Now, Ramondre Stevenson put up a certified dud last week, but I do think this could be a get-right spot up against the Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins actually have one of the better run defenses in the NFL, but it's been pretty clear all season long as a Dolphins fan that at home versus away, this defense is night and day. At home, they're unstoppable. They're forced to be reckoned with. Away, they have no fucking idea what they're doing, and this game is in Foxborough. So I think Stevenson should be started, but I do have a worry deep down in me that is like, if you remember Bill Belichick for years, you sneeze the wrong way. I forget his name. I think it was Jonas Gray. Like, has this 3-touchdown game a couple years ago. Maybe this is like 10 years ago at this point. I don't remember. But he plays amazing, and then he shows up to practice late the next day, and Bill Belichick's like, fuck you, pal. No one's ever going to hear about you again, little buddy. You should have showed up to practice. But Stevenson, the leash is long as fuck. He had a shit game last week. Shit game, like, caused the reason why they lost the game to the Raiders, because he flicked it back to Myers, and then Myers obviously threw it back to Mac Jones, who got stiff-armed into Middle Earth. Ultimately, I think Stevenson's going to continue to get chances, but I am a little bit worried about it. Ultimately, though, it doesn't feel like this is the game where Damian Harris returns. So with Pierre Strong, hey, Pierre, you want to come out here? Being the backup, it just doesn't really seem like they're going to really do that. Raheem Mostert, really good. Fumbled. Part of the reason why the Dolphins lost, the other reason is because Tua played like shit because he got a concussion in the second half. Brutal as a Dolphins fan. Teddy Two Gloves is going to be under center. I pray to the football gods above that the Dolphins can win this game. I need to go to the playoffs, but if we lose this game, disaster of a season, Tua hurts. I hope Mostert steps up here. But Wilson looked good last week too, Jeff Wilson Jr. So I think this is just a scenario where they're going to just keep using both against the Patriots run defense. I'm just going to stay away. This seems like a very clear stay away matchup for me. Next up, we move to the Indianapolis Colts at the New York Football Giants. We are going to keep this one incredibly simple. You're going to be starting Saquon Barkley. He's one of the best running backs in the NFL. The Colts defense is pretty dookie at this point in the season. The Colts as a whole are a disaster. They got 9-inch Nick Foles under center, so Zach Moss and Deion Jackson, kind of any semblance of upside they had has been stripped away by the fact that Nick Foles was sucking donkey hog last week, played absolutely terrible. I don't really see him stepping up much here up against the Giants. Zach Moss would be the guy to start if you had both of them and you're in a really shit situation, but you're probably not in the championship if you're forced to start Zach Moss or Deion Jackson, so we're just going to sit both of them. Obviously, again, Saquon Barkley has been on fire. It really does appear, as of the last couple of weeks, that Saquon Barkley hopped in the fucking time machine, or in that time machine from the Doritos commercial, if you remember, during the Super Bowl all those years ago, and he's back from a couple years ago where he was one of the best running backs in the NFL. I don't think the Colts really have the recipe of sugar, spice, and everything nice to stop him, so I think this should be a big game out of Mr. Saquon Barkley. But before we move on into the rest of the games at the running back position, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Now, if you're a brand new user to DraftKings Sportsbook, you click on the link in the video description down below or in the pinned comment. They have a great offer for you. If you bet $5 on any sport pregame money line, you will win $150 in free bets if your team wins. Now, again, you got to be a new user. You got to click the link in the video description. All you got to do is bet $5. You can turn that to $150 if your team wins. So we're actually not going to place a bet on the NFL, because even those games, there's a lot of games that are 50-50, and there's even going to be games where it's like, the Chiefs are definitely going to beat the Broncos, and then magically the Broncos end up winning. So we're just going to go with the safest sport possible, and that is college basketball. They have the biggest favorites in college basketball tonight. My favorite in college basketball, you're going to see on the screen right now. All you got to do is navigate to the top of the screen where you click on college basketball. You're going to scroll down and you are going to find Houston money line minus 3,500 versus Tulsa. It might shift a little bit as the day goes along, but again, Houston money line versus Tulsa, incredibly easy matchup for Houston. One of the top teams in college basketball. So Houston versus Tulsa, you bet $5 on them, you receive $150 in free bets as long as your bet wins. And make sure you take advantage of the free bets once you get them, because they expire 7 days later. So make sure you take advantage of them once you are given them. So back on into things, we move to the next game here. We got the New Orleans Saints at the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, in surprising fashion, Alvin Kamara shows up last week. Now, I know basically everything told us that this is the game where Alvin Kamara is going to come back and have a good game, right? It's cold as fuck, brick as fuck, where your balls get trapped inside your body. It's snowing. They got to run the fucking rock. There's heavy wind. This is the perfect game for Alvin Kamara. And still deep down, the devil and the angel on my shoulder were having a debate. The devil is telling me Alvin Kamara has been dog shit this season, and then the angel's like, oh, but he's still Alvin Kamara. And you know what I thought? I said, fuck it, you can start him in some scenarios, but I don't think I feel anywhere near confident to start Alvin Kamara. And you know what the motherfucker does? He spreads his arms, his wings like an eagle, and he flies. He soars. He's flying like fucking the High School Musical song, and Alvin Kamara has a fantastic game. Now he gets the Eagles this week. Everything's probably going to be a disaster again. He's going to go back to sucking absolute donkey hog in terms of fantasy football, but you're still going to start him. You're still going to start him. Just like you've been starting him when he was scoring like 7 fucking fantasy points a game. Miles Sanders is incredibly hit or miss. Now, you would think with Gardner Minshew under center, they'd look to run the ball a little bit more, but the problem is the team was very successful at throwing the ball to A.J. Brown, to Dallas Goedert, to Devontae Smith, the Slim Reaper, last week. So I don't think they're necessarily going to look to go away from the pass. And the Saints are a team you can exploit both with the rushing attack as well as the passing attack. I think Miles Sanders should have a good game here, but let's be honest, this season, he's been pretty hit or miss. He's been like, 6 points, or getting 18 points, right? There's really no games where you're like, oh, Miles Sanders got me 12 points. It's really either 6 or 18. And, that's just the price you pay with Mr. Miles Sanders. David Johnson's going to be a sit for me. I still can't believe this man's in the NFL at this point. Kenneth Gainwell's a sit as well. Every couple of weeks, one of these random-ass backups, they're not randoms like Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott on the Eagles are going to score, but it's basically impossible to predict which week that's going to be. Next up, we got the Carolina Panthers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I know last week, Nick, oh my God, the Carolina Panthers running backs went crazy against the Lions. And people are going to get all antsy. Oh, I should start Foreman. I should start Chuba Hubbard. Oh, James Conner ran a train on the Bucs last week. Well, the problem is, the reason why I was so nervous about Donta Foreman, Chuba Hubbard last week is because they're in a fucking committee. Clear committee. You don't know every week which one it's going to be. Now, could Foreman or Hubbard smash here, bend the Buccaneers over and fuck them relentlessly into the night without the use of lube? Yes. They could rip them a new asshole. But could your team also get its asshole ripped open? Could they take a shit directly on your chest and have a bad game? Yes. This is the championship. This is not the type of bullshit I'm trying to rely on in my fantasy championship. Leonard Fournette, Uncle Lenny, is a start going up against the Panthers this week. Leonard Fournette looked amazing. He looked spry. He was catching passes. I still think Rachaad White's better than him, but, the team just seems to love Mr. Uncle Lenny. Rachaad White's going to be a sit. Next up, we got the Cleveland Browns at the Washington Commanders. Left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders. Now, the biggest problem with Nick Chubb is he's just not getting the ball as much. Nick Chubb has been a disaster ever since Deshaun Watson came back, and it fucking sucks. Now, deep down, you know how good Nick Chubb is. You know Nick Chubb could score 30 points against the Commanders. It doesn't matter what fucking defense it is, right? This guy is one of the most electric runners in all the National Football League. Do I feel confident, though, against the Commanders that aren't even this? They're not like some world-beating defense. Do I feel confident in Chubb? Fuck no, baby. Fuck no, baby. No, I don't. I can't feel confident because we've been getting reamed every week by Nick Chubb. Every week you think, oh, he's still Nick Chubb, this, that, and the other thing. He's still one of the best running backs in the NFL. Oh my God, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. And he fucking has been sucking because the team doesn't give him enough carries. Now, will they magically get it through their numbskulls? Will Kevin Stefanski think, holy shit, maybe we should run with Nick Chubb? Maybe he'll think that. Hallelujah. That would be amazing. But will he figure that out? I don't know. I definitely wouldn't bet on that. Brian Robinson Jr., the Browns have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. This could be a huge spot for Brian Robinson, who's been pretty decent. He had a tough matchup last week, so I wasn't really big on the Brian Robinson train, but this week, banging the drum for him. Antonio Gibson has kind of fallen off the edge of the earth recently, and then Kareem Hunt. Oh, this has just been a bad year. If you're a Kareem Hunt truther, this was a bad year to be that. It has not worked out at all this year. Next up, we move to a matchup between the 49ers and the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, my voice is still a little fucked up from being sick last week, so I apologize. My Raiders isn't as good. It kind of makes me need a cough right now, but I'm going to work through it. I'm a strong boy here. McCaffrey, guess what? You're going to fucking play him. Now, it doesn't take some type of rocket scientist to figure out that McCaffrey's a good start up against one of the worst run defenses, worst defense as a whole in the NFL. Now, for some reason, the Raiders decided to sit Derek Carr. Now, I think it's because they don't want to, they're like doing some contract shit where like, I think if he gets hurt next year, then they won't technically have to pay him $40 or $30 million. I am not some accountant here. I'm not here to do some fucking analysis on his contract. Who gives a fuck, right? Who gives a rat's ass for Josh Jacobs, his contract? Jarrett Stidham's going to be under center. Got to think they're going to try to run the ball a lot. Now, the Niners' defense is stout, so even though Derek Carr's been pretty dog shit, let's be honest here, let's call a spade a spade, he's been pretty bad, can I feel confident playing Josh Jacobs? Not really. Like, he's great. I hope he plays good. Jarrett Stidham's really bad, though. Jarrett Stidham's not good. Jarrett Stidham's not good. Jordan Mason is a sit, as is Amir Abdullah. Next up, we move to the New York Jumbo Jets at the Seattle Seahawks. Kenneth Walker is going to be a start. He did get healthy over the last couple of weeks now. The Jets do have a really decent run defense, so I don't think there's going to be the Hulk smash game of the century for Walker, but he's definitely start worthy. If you guys haven't noticed during this video, my confidence in running backs this week is not as high as normal. But yeah, Kenneth Walker's a start. I get why you might want to start Zonovan Knight because the Seattle defense pretty mid. And with Magic Mike White back, they should look to give the ball more to Zonovan Knight, and the offense should be able to actually move the ball because Zach Wilson was such a disaster, they couldn't really do anything. So I do kind of like Zonovan Knight, but I understand the risk that comes with it. So if you are in a deeper league, and for instance, you might want to start, I'll just talk about the next game. We're going to flip to it. So Zonovan Knight, Michael Carter, DJ Dallas, all sits. But if you wanted to start Zonovan Knight over a guy like A.J. Dillon in the Vikings at Packers that we're going to talk about right now, I'm not going to have some fucking crazy argument with you. So Dallas, Dalvin Cook has been pretty decent recently. This has been a pretty bad season for Dalvin Cook compared to what I thought. Now, again, it's not like he was a complete bust. Like every single week, this guy was giving you a big problem. But in reality, compared to what I thought Dalvin Cook would be this year, it's been bad. But the Vikings are really good. So again, the scoring could be really high. This should really be a back and forth high scoring affair, which is why I like all these running backs. But again, if you said, oh, I like Zonovan Knight better than Dylan, then go ahead and do that, right? I'm not going to argue with you on that. The problem, though, is Dylan's been running pure. Dylan's been running great recently. He's been on fire, and I don't necessarily know that I want to hop off the heat here. I kind of talk about this all the time. When a player is on fire, like fucking in NBA Jam, right? When you're riding this hot streak, you don't just jump off the hot streak, right? You don't just dive off and Michael Phelps style and play someone else. So Aaron Jones is banged up. If Aaron Jones doesn't play, then A.J. Dillon moves into must-start category, where he's a guy that I'm giving the gawk 9000, banging the fucking drum. If you've ever played, I don't know what the game is called. I had it on GameCube as a kid. It was like the Donkey Kong game, and you're fucking smacking the bongos, moving the guy. That might be a niche game. I'm not sure many people had that, but back as a kid, I had that. I loved that shit. I might be smacking the fucking bongos aggressively for A.J. Dillon if Jones doesn't play. But if Jones plays, you're still going to play him. Even though his usage last week was abysmally bad. I don't know what the fuck they were doing. Alexander Madison's a sit. Like, unless Dalvin Cook's hurt, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, then Alexander Madison's useless. Next up, we got the LA Rams at the LA Chargers. I believe this game was supposed to be Sunday Night Football, but everyone realized ain't nobody got time to watch some bullshit like this. Baker Mayfield lit up the Broncos defense like a Christmas tree. Baker Mayfield went off. It was very fun to watch. Cam Akers, what's hilarious is that the person who drafted Cam Akers probably doesn't have Cam Akers right now in the championship. The guy who drafted Cam Akers might be playing against the guy who picked up Cam Akers and now has him, which is hilarious. Imagine drafting a guy with such high draft capital, top 4 round pick. The guy fucking sucks ass for weeks. You're sitting there like, oh, I got to play Akers. You keep playing him. And I kept trying to tell people, oh, don't play him. And then slap in the face. And then eventually people are tired of getting beaten. They say, fuck this shit, I'm out. And then week 17 or the last couple of weeks, he arises, has amazing games. And you're like, fuck, I cut him. And now you got to play against him. That's going to be tough. Tough scene if you lose to him. Chargers defense is ass against the run. This could be a huge game again out of Akers. Austin Eckler, the Rams defense did look good last week, but the Denver Broncos defense might make the fucking Stevie Wonder School of Blind look good, right? At the end of the day, that's kind of just how they work. So Austin Eckler could have a pretty solid game here up against, or he should, realistically. He's hurt as well. There's a lot of running backs that are banged up, but again, I assume he's going to play. This game isn't necessarily crucial for the Chargers because they already clinched, but I still think they want to win because it affects seeding. Kyren Williams, backup for Cam Akers at a point in this season. It was like, ooh, Kyren Williams season. Maybe it's really not. It's Cam Akers time. And then Joshua Kelly is a sit as well. Next up here, we move to Sunday Night Football. The Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. For me, Najee Harris is going to be a sit. He's been running a lot better recently. Earlier on in the season, he was a bust. He's probably going to finish the season, and most people are going to look back and say, oh, Najee was a bust. Yeah, he probably was, but he's been better recently, so at least if you had him, like, he kind of had his redemption arc, he's been playing a little bit better. So, I got him here against the Ravens. The Ravens' defense has been a little bit better. Again, neither of these guys, J.K. Dobbins, he's also a start. Like, I'm not going to sit here and fucking gawk these guys, give them this talk up, this hype up. Like, Lamar might be back in this game. J.K. Dobbins is just fine. It's clear that he's banged up. He's playing banged up. He's playing hurt. So he's not going to probably explode for 30-plus points, especially with how the Steelers' defense has been playing recently. But can he score 15 points, 16 points, even with the banged-up leg, even not being able to cut correctly? Definitely. So again, with both these guys, you play them, you expect 12-ish points. If they go over, you're like, oh, that was nice. If they go under, you shouldn't be shocked. That's kind of just how I feel about this. Jaylen Warren and Gus Edwards are sits. Final game here, Monday Night Football. Bills at Bengals, the most anticipated game of the week. A basic playoff match, basically a playoff game. We get it 2 weeks early. Devin Singletary has been looking good. I'm starting him. Bengals defense, not the greatest. Devin Singletary's looked good, so I'm going to start him. Again, there's always the downside that James Cook fucking comes in and scores a touchdown. Like, Devin Singletary hasn't been consistent at all. He's been the definition of inconsistency all season long. But could he eke one out here and have a decent game? Yeah. Joe Mixon hasn't really been great recently, but again, are you going to sit fucking Joe Mixon, who could score 30 points in any given matchup in your fantasy championship? The answer is obviously going to be no. So you play him. If you have any questions about any of these players, ask down below in the comment section. So James Cook, Samaje Perine. James Cook is interesting. He's a good player, but the team just isn't committing to him enough to where I could fully tell you confidently, be like, oh, start James Cook. If I said that, I'd be lying. And I'm not a liar. So Cook, sit him down. Samaje Perine, sit his ass down. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. Again, if you have any questions, leave them down below in the comment section. Today's video was brought to you guys by DraftKings Sportsbook. Again, make sure you check out Houston Moneyline tonight versus Tulsa. Bet $5 on that, win $150 in free bets as long as they win. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.